Hi, I'm just with Camp Perspective, and we're here with Winnie. She is a 15-day daycare and train, and today is the first day of her training. In this video, I'm going to be going over her working level, and also just finding connection, perception, and working levels, and what each one does. So she's on the Doctrine 1900S Black Edition, because she's part Dane, so she might be, a sizable girl. So I'm currently set at 10, and what we're going to do here is when I tap on the button on the NIC function, which is the side button here with the bumps on it, I'm going to look at Winnie without any kind of verbal instruction, without saying anything to her, and I want to find her working level. Okay, so the reason why we don't say anything is the dog is completely unfamiliar with what e-collar is currently, and I can determine what her working level is going to be depending on how she responds to the NIC or the stimulation. So connection is when you see a twitch and the dog is unfazed. So Winnie could be staring at a squirrel, you see the twitching, so we have contact because the twitching is the muscle stimulation in response to the collar, but she's not fazed by it. So she could be staring, the twitching's happening, so we know we got connection, but she's completely unfazed and she continues to stare at whatever it is she's looking at. Perception is just above that. So it's, again, Winnie staring at something, she'll feel the contraction and you might see her kind of look around like, what was that? So not the biggest reaction. And then we have working level. And working level is, again, she's staring at the squirrel. We see the contraction, but when she feels the contraction, you might see Winnie do a bigger movement like this, okay? So it's a much more exaggerated response to the collar, and that's the number we want to be working at. The reason why the working number is important is because that's what makes your obedience applicable no matter what the environment is. So your working number may be different depending on where you are. So because we're inside an empty room, that working level, of course, is going to be lower. If we were to be out at a park, like Horner Park or Oz Park or anything like that, that number may very well be higher. So the working level is going to change depending on what's going on with the environment. If she's at the dog park playing with a lot of dogs, her number could be 65 out of 127 in order for her to respond. If she's in an empty dog park where it's just her, her number could be as low as, 10, 15, or whatever it may be. So we never get married to a number. We're always adjusting that number according to what's going on within the context, okay? And as you go along, you'll start to learn these things. So I'm currently at 10. So I'm going to look at Winnie here. Again, no instruction. Just double check. Collar is on. And if you want to double check if your collar is on without having to actually use the stimulation, we use the pager function, which is at the front of your device above your LED screen, okay? So if you're not sure if you turn on the collar, instead of pressing the NIC function, you simply grab the box, we hit pager, it vibrates, that tells us we have connection, the device is currently on. If I hit pager and this does not vibrate, then that tells me it was most likely not turned on or it died or something like that, okay? So again, we're at 10. I'm not going to give Winnie any instruction. I am going to shorten my leash here because I want to limit her mobility. So we're at 10, nice little stretch there, and tap, tap, tap. No response. 15, tap, tap, tap. So right here at 15, we got really subtle movements. So this is most likely perception level. So we're going to try that again. Tap. Yeah. So here she was biting on the leash. I tapped at 15. She immediately removed her mouth. Okay. So we want a little bit more than that. We're going to go to 18 here. And tap, tap, tap. Okay. A little bit more of a response, but it took 3 taps and I want it to be more instantaneous. Ideally within that 1 to 2 tap. 21. Tap. There we go. Good. So off of that 1 tap on 21, Winnie went from here and then moved sideways all the way over here by my side, okay? So we're gonna try that again. 21, tap. There. There's the big movement, okay? So that's the exaggerated response that we're looking for. So at 15, we had perception. She was doing very subtle movements, not too concerned. 18, about the same until the 3rd tap. Then she got concerned, and on 21, tap. We're seeing a much bigger response. Yeah, see that movement? That's all in response to that 1 tap, okay? So now that we have her working level, we'll start to shape all the other behaviors. Okay, now that we got Winnie's working level, which is 21, we're gonna start shaping the place command, okay? So the place command is meant for extended use or duration work, meaning if we want Winnie to not move for 2 hours, we can tell her to go to place. She can go to this placemat here, and her job is to stay there for the next 2 hours. Now, placemat is more lenient than the other commands. She can sit, stand, or lay down. We don't care what she does. She just has to stay within the perimeter of the dog bed. And the placemat can be anything from an elevated dog bed to a towel, a blanket. People have used ottomans. You can use your couch. Anything that has a definitive perimeter. What we could not use as place is, for example, this corner, okay? Because we have walls here, but we don't have anything limiting where the place officially ends in this direction. So she's not gonna know what area to stay within. So here, with the placemat, as long as she's within the space, she's okay. So the reason why we teach this command is it's a bit more lenient, because if we tell Winnie to down, her job is to lay down and not move from the down position for whatever time period we want her for. Same thing with the sit command. If we tell her to sit, if we say sit and we don't say break or any kind of release for 30 minutes, she's meant to hold that sit position for 30 minutes, okay? So we're gonna start with the place command. It's the easiest, and we're gonna start teaching her the send. When we teach all our behaviors, we really don't use any verbal instruction in the beginning. We use merely or simply the e-collar pressure, because we want to make sure that the e-collar is what's actively making Winnie move to the placemat, okay? And we refrain as much as possible from doing any kind of guidance work, like walking there with her, because we're trying to get her to understand when you feel this, you go here. So it's very obvious that the dog is understanding the concept of pressure means to go to this object. What we may see is a bit of hesitancy. She already did go onto the placemat herself just now. A lot of dogs, since it's foreign to them, tend to be apprehensive of it and become kind of fearful, skittish. So I'm gonna brace it with my foot. I'm just gonna assume that when I put pressure on her to get her to go from my side to the placemat, she's gonna be a little bit apprehensive. We might get a fear of flight response, which is normal because, again, dogs don't like pressure. And we gotta work her through it so that she understands that moving with pressure is actually what causes it to go away and not to move against pressure, okay? So we're at 21. What I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna shorten my leash. The closer I am to Winnie's collar with my leash, the more immediate leverage and the more physical leverage I'm gonna have over guiding and controlling her, okay? So we're at 21 here. I'm gonna brace my foot, and we're starting about a foot away. I'm gonna lightly pull here towards the placemat and tap. Good, and a girl. Now her job, even though I've not said anything, is to stay within the placemat. That was also much easier. I gave one tap and she tap, 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 tap. And she hopped right on it. And then as I was talking, she decided she was going to step off, and then I immediately countered her with leash pressure and a tap to guide her back on. Now, when I gave that tap, Winnie was making an immediate response, and she was moving right back to the bed very quickly, so I didn't get a chance to layer in another tap. However, had she been more apprehensive and kind of holding back and not wanting to go, I would have continued tapping at that kind of steady, slow rhythm of tap, 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 and continue to do so until she would move forward. If I hit 3 to 5 taps and she's not moved forward, then I go to bump the number, and since she's pretty sensitive at 21, I'd bump it most likely to 24 just as a general range or a general structure. I'm going in jumps of 3, as low as 3 to about as high as 5, okay? So now that she's on the placemat, and again, there's no words here, but it's still implied that she should stay, is I'm gonna now cue the release. The release that we use is break. Okay, so break means your job is done. So this applies to all our commands. It's a universal release command. So if she's in a place means go here, don't move until I release you. And then when I say break, you can go. So if I didn't say anything for 30 minutes, she's meant to hold this position until I say break. Even though I've not said the place command, she is under command because I put pressure behind it, okay? And as we condition her, we're gonna start to layer in the words. Break, good girl. Good. Tip. Good. Tip. Tip. tap. So this is resistance, tap. Good. Tap, 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 tap. Good. Good. Resistance is normal. We see it all the time because we're using negative pressure or discipline, as I like to call it. No one likes discipline. So here, because she's still learning, she's getting apprehensive and going, I don't like what's going on, and she's trying to resist it, and she's going opposite to the pressure. So the pressure was guiding her to the dog bed, and then she's going, nope, not gonna go there. So if I were to stop or reset, or even try to use food to lure her, she's learning that resistance is an option on her part, and we actually do not want that. We need the dog to learn that compliance is the only way to get pressure to go away, okay? The reason why this is if we, the most important command is the recall, come when called, is if Winnie were to get off leash and run towards the street, chasing a squirrel or get spooked by a firework or whatever it is, if we've never broken her resistance and made her comply to a command, even something as simple as this, even at this stage, in that moment, if she were to be running off and I said, Winnie, come, or I remoted her and she thinks, nope, I'm not gonna do it, and in previous experiences, she's been able to get her way, your obedience is now not reliable, okay? Because it remains it's another option for her, where she says, sure, you said come, but I'm scared from that firework, so I'm not gonna return. And she's gonna just keep going. So it's important that whenever we come across resistance, that we break it at that moment. So she learns, okay, if I try to go against pressure, pressure keeps happening or goes higher, but the moment I comply, pressure goes away. Okay, so that's what she's learning right now. Break. Good girl. Tip, tip. Good. I'm gonna bump it. I'm gonna go to 24 just because I want a little bit more oomph from her, or a little bit more speed. Good, so we don't say stay when we do our stationary commands. Our stationary commands are gonna be the sit, down, and place command. The stay is actually implied, and the way I've been implying it is the past few times when I've sent her, when she's tried to remove herself from the placemat, I simply jumped to remoting until she went back again. So what her brain is learning is when I feel pressure, I go here, and as long as I stay here, nothing happens. But if I try to jump off, this kicks in and there's no warning, okay? So since there's no warning, her brain and she wants to prevent the pressure from kicking in again, that she's just thinking like, okay, the last few times I went here, when I tried to jump off, pressure kicked in, there was no warning, but as long as I keep my butt here, or I keep myself within this placemat area, everything's fine, okay? So we don't use stay. We don't say sit, stay, down, stay, or go to your bed, or place, stay. It's simply implied when we say sit, down, or place. Break. You had a girl. Good job. Fine. Tip. Good. So there's very little leash pressure. Nice and relaxed. So now she's being conditioned and learning. When I feel this tap, my assumption is I just go to this bed here. Good girl. Break. So now we get resistance coming off of place. Break. So I'm gonna brace here. I try not to put pressure behind the release if I can. The reason why she's resisting is because pressure's being put behind the send now, and she knows that she's gonna be sent again, and she's thinking, well, why don't I just stay here? So I just avoid the pressure altogether. Tip. Good girl. Good. Good. Walk around as a test. Good girl. Good. Again, I don't care if she stands, if she sits, or if she lays down. Break. Place means go to this bed and don't move. So here's the resistance again. I'm gonna brace with my foot. Yeah, the girl. Good job. I'm gonna do one more send, and then we're gonna start layering in the cue of place. Good. Good. So she was gonna assume to go there, but I don't want her to go there unless I've tapped her. Good girl. Tap. 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 Yeah, the girl. Good. Little bit of confusion. Tap. Tap. Good. Good. So if she jumps on me, that jump was a little bit of panic and comfort seeking. Okay, let's make sure. Yep. Comfort seeking. So again, most people would stop, try to praise the dog or reset. We don't do that because you're essentially reinforcing that response, and you're teaching her when you feel pressure, yes, you should panic, or yes, you should become fearful. Okay. Right now you can see her tail is tucked. We got a little bit of shaking here in the hindquarters because I use pressure to essentially counter her fear and flight response. So now she's having to learn to deal with pressure on her own. I cannot coax her, or I cannot console her to make her feel better. Okay. If I were to say, it's okay, girl, and praise her, and try to comfort her, the intention is to console, but her brain doesn't translate it that way. Okay. Petting is a reinforcer. So if you were to say sit, and Winnie were to sit, and you were to praise her, you're reinforcing that behavior, and you're telling her, when I say sit, you should respond and do this, and you'll get this once you do so. Here, if I'm saying it's okay, girl, and I'm petting her, it's okay, girl means don't feel like this. Okay, she doesn't understand what that means. The petting is keep doing this. So really, I'm telling her, keep being scared, keep being fearful, keep being unsure, keep being flighty when you feel this. Okay, so that's why we're not praising her or trying to console her using physical touch. I'm letting her process this on her own. This is completely normal to see at this stage, and which is why exposure to the e-collar is so important. Typically, when people see the dog get like this, their response is to not work with the dog because they feel bad for them. And actually, by doing that, you keep your dog in this stage of understanding e-collar as opposed to moving past it and seeing it as a communicator. Okay, so the reason why, again, she's unsure about this is because, one, no one likes discipline. Two, dogs aren't meant to have their muscles contracted. Okay, so here, and also the physicality aspect of it, of you have to do this because pressure is going to kick in and until you respond. So it creates stress, but stress is a part of life, and this is what makes this approach so reliable, is because even in a stressful situation, like if she's scared and running away or something, and I have this tool, I can override her using this tool. Okay, but it takes allowing the dog to process and move through this on their own. Okay, so she got a little off. Tap, 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 tap. Good, right there. So then here, her leg, tap, 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 tap. 28, tap, 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 tap. 31, tap, 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 tap. 35, tap, 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 tap. 40, tap, 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 tap. I can see her neck twitching. Tap, 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 tap. 50, tap, 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 tap. 55, tap, 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 tap. 60, tap, 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 and tap, tap. You may see this in the camera, but her neck is twitching here. 65, tap, 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 tap. 70, tap, tap, tap. There. I'm gonna go down, back to that 23 that we were at earlier. All right, so that was really good. So again, that's fear or flight response. And it's also considered resistance. Now what she's doing isn't anything bad, okay? But again, we wanna talk about reliability. So here she jumps on me and goes, Jesse, please help me with this, or help me through this, or help this stop, or whatever it is. And I understand that for the average dog owner, they're like, oh my God, the dog's under stress. Like the dog wants it to stop, and I get all that. But remember, if we don't override her and teach her that that's not the response she should give, it remains an option, okay? So we went from 23 all the way up to, I think it was 65, 70 just now. And I went in increments of 5, and she chose when to give up. okay? So I was working with her at 21, 23 the entire time. Then finally she gets panicked, she vocalized a little bit, hopped back on and said, I need an out, and jumped to me. And I just was tapping, increasing the pressure. And what I was doing in that time was telling her that what you're doing right now is not an option, okay? And this is all non-verbally, this is all through pressure. So she's sitting there and she's trying to override the sensation, and she's going, nope, I'm gonna be resistant, and I wanna seek comfort and whatever. But finally, once I hit 70 was her breaking point. At 70, she decided, you know what, this isn't helping the cause right now. What happens if I just retract and go back to what I was doing? Everything disappears, okay? So now Winnie just learned, if I become resistant, I'm making life harder. The number will continue to escalate, the pressure will continue to keep going higher until I decide to cave in. And the moment she caved in, everything goes away, and I lowered the number back down to 23, okay? So when we see resistance, it's, again, completely normal. We always take our time. There is no rush, and we take our time and we slowly escalate. And I do this with my clients in private training as well, as we slowly escalate in the beginning to find and let the dog choose when to have the pressure turn off. So had she stopped when I went to 35, the highest I would have gone is 35. So that's why I was saying the number, and I was tapping 3 times, and then every third tap, if I didn't see her respond, and some of them I gave a few more, I would bump it 5 levels because I'm trying to get to that answer quicker. Eventually, her brain learns resistance is not an option. So the next time she becomes resistant, we may see her only need up to 55 before she decides to comply, because she knows this is going to keep going up higher. Or at some point she could decide, nope, I'm going to give it my best shot now, and I'm going to do complete resistance, and we could go even higher than 70. I've had dogs max out collars before. I've even had dogs have to max out collars and then go back down and try it again on continuous. Every dog is different. In her case, this is pretty standard, and you can see how she's tucking in. Again, her tail is tucked in, her legs are shaking, all that stuff. This is all normal to see. This is not making the dog worse emotionally, psychologically, physiologically, or mentally. This is just part of the process, and it's bringing out how Winnie responds to stress. When put under stress, this is what Winnie's response is. This, of course, is a stressor. So we're seeing her response, but in a controlled context. Eventually, as we expose her more to this, and she starts to get more work and walks and training and stuff, all this starts to go away, okay? So I'm gonna move back, break. Good, and what I'm gonna start doing now is layering the cue of place. So everything's gonna stay the same, except now, before tap, 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 28, tap, 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 33, tap, 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 40, tap, 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 50, tap, 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 60, tap, tap. There we go. Good. So 60, and I jumped it quicker at the end because I'm already aware that 70 was her the previous time. All right. So here, I'm going to cue place, tap, tap, add a girl. Good job. Move around a little bit. And my energy, always neutral, always indifferent. If you feel bad, or if you look sorry, or if you're trying to be soft and sweet, you're actually empowering the dog's fear flight response, okay? So you always want to be neutral, you always want to be upbeat, positive, or indifferent, and allow her to process it. And she's going, well, if you don't think that this is a big deal, then I guess it's not a big deal. But if you're like, yeah, like, I'm sorry, this really sucks, like, and your energy is like negative, or your energy is like, I don't like doing this, Winnie is then gonna see that, and she's like, well, if you don't like this, then I don't like this. Break. So the way we interact with Winnie during this training kind of determines how she feels about it. Okay, so we're at 23, place, tap, add a girl. Good job. Now every time I'm sending at the moment, I am using pressure. Now if Winnie were to respond very quickly and beat the tap, then we don't do anything. So the reason for using pressure, and using pressure as much as possible when we do the sends, break, is, good girl, is I want her to think that the tap is guaranteed. So here, this is the flight response. She's trying to tuck away behind the placemat. Place, tap, tap, tap. Good girl. 23 still. What was I saying? I want Winnie to think, okay, it's a guaranteed. When I hear the word place, tap is gonna kick in. How do I beat the tap? And what happens is we start saying place and the dog responds like that and starts shooting towards the placemat, okay? So when we say place, they start running or moving very quickly to the placemat. She's beating the punch, so we don't tap. And then the dog learns, oh, if I hear place, if I just move very quickly without any hesitation or without any resistance or without second guessing it, I can avoid the tap altogether. Most people tend to give the dog the opportunity to avoid the tap by saying place and then like repeating or saying place and then giving a gap before tapping. So like waiting 3 seconds, and what happens is you create a delay, or you teach your dog to ignore you the 3 to 5 times that you say the place command and you don't reinforce it. I say it one time and immediately kick in with the remoting because I want to motivate the dog to beat the punch and move very quickly. Break. And a girl. Good. Oh, she's already assuming. Place. Tap. Tap. Good girl. Good. So I'm using very little help with the leash. Again, as much as possible using the remote, because you want to think that if Winnie is going to be off leash, the only line of communication you're going to have is your remote collar. You're not going to have your leash to help guide her, okay? Once she's fully off leash, you want to make sure that your conditioning has been done correctly. You've used the remote as much as possible so that Winnie has a very clear and defined understanding of what e-collar is. Break. Good girl. Winnie did come with her prong collar. The reason why we're not doing prong collar right now is because I want to make sure that the remote is doing all the work for me. Good, just wait a moment. Place, tap, add a girl. Good job. I want to make sure remote is doing, of course, all the work. So here, I'm ignoring her resistance with the walking here and stuff because we've not covered heel. This is the first official obedience command that she is learning today. So we're making sure that we use the remote, and if needed, we can always incorporate the prong with it. They're perfectly safe to use together. Break, do a couple more. Break, tip, 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 tip. Good. So now, because she's being a little bit more resistant coming off the placemat, place, tip, tap. I'm putting a little bit of pressure behind the release. Again, I prefer not to, but at some point, if the dog is too resistant, we will do it. It's okay. Good. Break. Tip, 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 tip. Good girl. It's 35. Good. 23. Place, tap. Add a girl. Tap, tap, tap. Good. 23 this time to break comfort seeking. Early we had to go to 70 and then it was 60. Now I was able to keep it at 23. Good. I'm gonna do a couple more. Break. Good girl. Good girl. Good. Place. Tap, tap, tap. Good. Tap, tap. Good. So she went half on the place, and I continued tapping until the hindquarters went back on as well. Break. Good girl. Good. So since I put a little bit of pressure behind the break, wasn't needing to put pressure behind that one or the last one or two, I believe. Place. Tap. Tap. And a girl. Good job. You can also see her posture has gone up. Earlier, she was kind of slinked like this. Now, when she's sitting up, she's more straight, more erect. That's good. because we broke a bit of the resistance with her coming off. So as we break resistance, good girl. It allows the dog's brain to open up a bit more. Place, tap, tap, tap. Good girl. It allows the brain to open up more because when the dog's brain is in resistance, they're saying nope, don't want to do it. So it's kind of like with the human. If you're trying to talk to someone or persuade them to do something and they're just with their arms crossed and they're like just not wanting to hear it, you're not going to get through. Okay, you would have to break that resistance through persuasion or something, using words. We don't have that with dogs. I cannot verbally persuade her to do anything. I have to use pressure. Okay, so I can talk to her as much as I want to, like, come on, Winnie, if you get off, everything will get better. She does not understand what those words mean by definition. So we have to talk her language, and her language, of course, is through pressure. So the more we expose her to it, the more we're going to start seeing a more confident, more receptive Winnie. And the more often she doesn't get her way, and the more often we break resistance, the more receptive and sensitive she's going to be towards our communication. Okay, just do a last two. Break. Yeah, girl. Good job. Still at 23. Again, I don't want her assuming. Place. Tap. Tap. Yeah, girl. Good job. Good. That tail has now come out. It's not tucked in like it was earlier. It's over here to the side of her right hind leg. Break. Come on. Tip. A little bit of resistance. Tip. Yeah, girl. Good job. Come on. Place. Tip. Good. Tip. Tip. So I'm going to counter her here. There, good. So right there, she went to place, but she was hanging off the edge there. So that off the edge was her brain saying, like, I want to move or leave this spot. So I countered her a little bit and gave 2 taps. Now she turned in. Now she's laying right here. Okay. So right now, of course, not the biggest fan on pressure. This is completely normal. We see it all the time. It's just part of the kind of what we call the messy middle, where we're trying to create compliance and concepts with the dog. So as we expose her and do more training with her, she'll of course get more confidence, become a bit more clear about how this works, and you'll start to see her open up a bit more and not be so like kind of shut down or what people call mopey and depressed. Okay, so that's the place command. This is her first session, of course, and then we're going to work through all her other commands. All right, so we're back with Winnie with the Daycare and Train, and we're now going to be moving towards the heel command, which means to walk at your left side. So here we found that her working number in the puppy room was 23. So now I'm on the floor where there's other dogs, so we have a bit more distraction, so that number may change. So I'm going to go ahead and just give a test tap here. Tap. There we go. So I immediately got her attention. So 23 looks like it's going to work here as well. So we're going to keep it at 23. So a couple of tips here is when we do the heel command is if you look at your leash here, I like to take up some of the slack. And if you see there's like a bit of a J shape here, and at the bottom of the J, it's kind of like right where her armpit is. And I find that to be like the perfect length when working with dogs, because we want to give Winnie enough space that she can actually get away from us, but not so much that the leash is going to get tangled up underneath her legs or her paws. So here I'm just taking up enough leash. I'm grabbing it past the handle. I'll show you how to hold the leash like this later. So here we have a nice slack leash, and we want to give that slack because we want Winnie to have the option and the space to, of course, make mistakes and get away from us, because that's how dogs learn. I'm not going to hold the leash tight and try to keep her here. I'm going to give her the freedom to make mistakes, and I'm going to help direct her by using the e-collar again as a line of communication. So here, when we're teaching the dog to heel, I'm going to be making a lot of immediate right turns, at a 180 degree, going back to the opposite direction every time that Winnie gets away from me. When you hear me saying tap, I'm of course tapping on the button. And the other thing that I'll be doing is sometimes the dogs will kind of cross over to the right side, and my job is to hold or keep Winnie at my immediate left, okay? And the perfect heel position is her right shoulder parallel to my left leg, either lined up like that, or she could be a little bit behind. Not too much behind, like this would be too much. And we never want her to be ahead, even if it's only like just a few inches. Heel is not about teaching the dog to not pull that much. Heel is a very strict command. It means right shoulder to left leg. And I break it up as walk with me, stay with me, sit when I stop. So we'll also be shaping automatic sits. So every time I come to a stop, Winnie should automatically come to a sit. I'm not going to worry about adding the verbal heel command in the beginning because I, of course, want to shape the behavior, and then I'll layer in the word. So instead of moving forward, because I can see Winnie's kind of directed off that way because we have a couple of dogs on placemats and then we have a dog doing a day one evaluation, is I'm instead going to turn this way and tap, tap, good, and move, turn, tap. So every time Winnie gets ahead, tap. I'm going to go the opposite way, tap, tap, and tap on the e-collar. Tap. Good. So she's starting to notice me now. Tap. Good. Tap, tap, tap. Good. Tap, 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 tap. Good. I'm going to bump her a little bit. I'm going to go to 27. Tap, tap. Good. Good, so now she's watching a bit more. Good girl. Tap, tap. So right there, she turned to the left. So I use that as an opportunity. Tap, tap, tap. Good. As an opportunity to catch her off guard. Good. Tap, tap. Good. Tap, tap. So if she ends up lagging behind me, good. Tap. If she ends up lagging behind me, I actually just keep moving forward, tap, and tap. Good. So now we can see her lining up more with me. Tap, tap, because there was a delay there. Tap. For going to the wrong side, so I pull to my left and tap. Good. Tap. Good. Here's some resistance. Tap. Good girl. Tap. Good. So I'm not trying to physically control Winnie here. I want to mentally control Winnie. Tap. Good. Good. She beat the tap there. Tap. Good. And right there, she got distracted by the dog and the pen. Good. Tap. Good, because she was on the wrong side. Tap. Good. Tap. Good. Good. I'm not going to care about this right now. Good, but she's walking more at my pace. Tap to speed her up. Tap. Tap, because she passed. Again, I'm always making immediate turns. Tap, tap, to the right. So I'm pretty much staying within a straight line. Good, I bumped it to 30. Tap. Good girl. Tap. Good. Tap, tap. Good girl. Tap. Because further she was lagging. Good girl. Tap. Good. Good. Tap. Speed her up. Good. Tap. Good. Oh, good. Here she gave me an automatic sit. I didn't ask for it, but I'll go ahead and praise it because I liked it. Girl. Heel. Tap. Tap. I'm going to go ahead and start adding in the word of heel. Good. And what we're going to do to layer in these auto sits is I'm going to take my leash, lightly pull up, press down on the hindquarters, and tap. Good girl. Good job. Yes. Good. Heel. Tap. 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 Good. Tap. Good girl. Good job. Good. Heel. Tap. Tap. Because she passed. We're still operating at 30. Tap. Good girl. So there I didn't put any pressure on her hindquarters. I simply pulled up on the leash very lightly, gave a tap. The reason why I'm not saying sit here, heel, is because again, it's built into the heel command. Tip. Good. I'm gonna dip this down and go down to 25 here. She gave a little bit of an exaggerated response. So I don't care that Winnie is actually sitting, facing towards me and off. This is out of position. The only reason why this is happening right now is because she's just learning what the concept is. So she's overreacting to the taps. So eventually when she gets comfortable with it, she's gonna start sitting on her own and the sit's gonna be more aligned to my side where she's gonna be facing forward and her right shoulder's gonna be on my left side. Heel, tap, 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 tap. Good, good. So here I step back to her just to make things a little bit easier for now, just because she's learning, but we wouldn't actually do that once she's been fully trained. Heel, tap, 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 because she passed again, turning to the immediate right. Good girl. Tap. See what she does here. Light pressure up, tap. Good. Get a girl. Good job. Good, yeah. Good. Heel. Tap. 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 Because she passed, I'm going to bump it. I'm going to go to 28. Tap. 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 Good. And a girl. So e-collar should never feel like an argument. Heel, tap, tap. If it does feel like an argument, meaning you're having to tap a whole lot, means we're too low on the collar. 31, tap, tap, tap. There we go. Good. And you can see with a little bit more action going on for Winnie here. We're needing a higher power. Not that much difference, only an 8-level difference currently. Heel, tap, tap, because she got a head. Got a little bit of a whine, go back down, we'll try 26. Tap, tap, good. So here I came to a stop. When he got distracted, she puts her nose to the ground. I tapped on 26 about 2 to 3 times. One to stop the sniffing, and the second to put her back into the sitting position. And she responded very easily, and that's on 26. So heel. The number is not staying consistent, that's just how it is. And what's very important is that you learn how to tip. Good, and without any leash pressure, she sat down. Is learning to adapt to the context. So every environment you go into is going to be different. You got your neighborhood, there's Oz Park, there's Horner Park, there's a farmer's market, there's all these, Home Depot, PetSmart, whatever, is knowing and reading Winnie and just basing your remote levels off of her behavior. So if I'm tapping at like 12 and Winnie's just pulling me all over the place and not walking at my side or doing the auto sits like she's supposed to, that tells me we're too low, okay? So right now at this stage, we're of course conditioning, but the more we condition, her brain's gonna wanna avoid negative, and she's gonna start offering these things automatically. So that's why I'm not, giving her time to respond. I'm immediately kicking in with the e-collar, because the faster I kick in with the e-collar, the more conditioned she's learning to just try to beat the punch and give me the auto sits without much persuasion on the remote power. Okay, so we're gonna do a few more. Tap, good girl. When we walk, we wanna be nice and relaxed, arms down. Good, here she turns with me. Good girl. Tap, because she got distracted. Tap, because she delayed. And I'm at 26. Okay, she stops with me. Tap. And she sits, no leash pressure. Okay, so now we're starting to build concepts. So again, we need to see the e-collar as a line of communication. We don't want her to think of it as like a big, bad, mean thing. It's all about how you're layering the collar. This is why we started low, we worked our way up. This is why when she was becoming resistant, I bumped the power in increments, because she's learning if she's resistant or compliant, that really affects the levels of the e-collar and the power that's going behind it. So no words really being said other than good, just to mark what I like. I don't make a really big deal about it, just because I'm trying to make it as simple as possible for the dog. You know, negative pressure, body movements, leash pressure if needed, and then marking behaviors. And of course, saying the word heel when I start moving, which I'll break down in another video. Okay, heel. Oh, good. Tap, because she got distracted again. Good. Good girl. Good girl. Tap. Okay, this is an overreaction, no problem. Let's go and dip that down. Let's go back down to 22. Heel. Good girl. Tap. 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 Good. 22, 2 taps. Good. Heel. Tap. Tap. Good. So what can happen sometimes, tap, is when you tap the dog in the sitting position, again, tap, they want to avoid the tap, so then they start to not move with you when you start moving. It's completely normal. So then if she doesn't move, when I cue the word heel, tap, tap. You had a girl, good job. I simply tap to get her to move forward. Heel, tap, tap. Tap. Good. Ate a girl. Good job. Good. Heel. Good. So no tap there because she immediately moved. Tap, tap, tap. She got lost her focus on me. Good. Heel. Tap, tap, tap. Good. Heel. Tap. Good. Tap. 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 A little bit of resistance. Good. Tap. Good girl. Good job. Good. Heel. Tap. 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 So we lost a little bit of connection. I'm gonna fiddle with this a little bit. Good. Tap, 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 tap. There we go. Heel. Tap, tap. Very good. So this is Winnie's introduction to the heel command. I just bumped it to 30 right now because when I shifted the collar, it affected the connection. So here, you can see Winnie's a lot more relaxed than she was going over the place command, because with the place command, it was her going to a stationary place. And here with the heel, the reason why this helps relax the dog more is because e-collar makes dogs move. So if I put this e-collar on Winnie and she's had no training and I'm remoting her, kind of like what you saw in the finding the working level, she started to move around. Okay, so when we see, so what we do is we use a moving behavior, aka the heel, to teach her how pressure turns on, how it turns off. Okay, and she's learning that when she feels this collar, of course, means to hug into my left leg. I was using very little leash pressure to guide her, and more so just my body movement and those consistent, immediate 180 turns to the right to bring her to that left side. Okay, the reason why turning to the right is important is because if I turn inwards or to the left, it would actually bring Winnie to my right side. So every time Winnie passes you, you will always make an immediate turn to the right and tap and continue tapping until Winnie comes to your side, and you would continue walking forward. If Winnie were to get ahead of you, you would immediately again turn. So sometimes it's turn, 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 turn as you're tapping to eventually get the dog to lock in. If you feel like you're turning a ton and it's not getting better, we're most likely too low on the e-collar. It's very common. And that's the most common problem that I get with my dog owners, is that they stay too low on the collar. So remember, when you're working with Winnie, you want to make sure you're at the appropriate working level. That working level may change, just like it changed throughout today's, or this session right now with the heel. And I started at 23 because I still had good contact, but then eventually throughout the training, ended up going to 30. So her attention to you and how she responds to the collar is ultimately what dictates if you're too high or too low and whether or not you should adjust it. Let me think here. When it comes to practicing the heel command, there's no such thing as too much, but dogs do learn better in smaller chunks. So I always suggest that people do, if they're doing 3 walks a day with their dog, they do 3 20-minute walks. They can do 4 15-minute walks. If all you have is 1 solid long hour to commit, you can do that as well. It's just she would learn better in the beginning if you break it up in smaller chunks throughout the day. Because you're walking, walking helps alleviate stress. So e-collar builds stress, but then the walking helps alleviate stress, which is why walking is also such a good exercise when teaching the e-collar. As long as you're walking with Winnie and she's doing well at staying at your side, there's no need to turn. So if she's walking with us and she's in this perfect position with her right shoulder to my left leg, and my leash is completely slack and we're walking like that for blocks, that tells me that Winnie is paying attention. One thing that you can do to test of whether or not she's paying full attention is to change your speed. So we do slowing down and speeding up, and I'll go over this more in depth in the next video, but that helps kind of teach you and show you where Winnie's mind is at attention-wise. So that's it for this video, and in the next one we'll be covering, adding the heel word again, more specific leg movements, left turns, and of course crossover turns, 180 pivots. All right, go on, break. Good. So in the last video we covered teaching Winnie the heel concept with going back and forth, making immediate turns or 180 turns to the right so that she always lines up to our left. Now what we're going to do is go more in depth with the heel command, cueing the word heel, using leg movements, and then going over the turns and also just changes in speed. So this is more of the communication aspect of the heel. So in the first stage, we're teaching Winnie to follow or pay attention to the handler, okay? So once she's paying attention to the handler, then we can focus on teaching the handler how to communicate with Winnie or their dog so that the dog understands what it is that they're doing when they're under the heel command, okay? So we of course know when we're gonna stop and when we're gonna turn and everything like that. The dog does not. So if I'm walking with Winnie and I just abruptly stop, I assume she's gonna just keep going because it's too abrupt. So an example I like to use, of course, driving. When we drive, we pump the brakes, we flash our red lights to let the person behind us know, hey, we're coming to a stop, which allows them to stop with us. If you're going at a pretty fast speed and you just hit the brakes and there's a car behind you, you're gonna have most likely an accident and they're gonna crash right into you because there was not clear enough communication nor enough time for them to see what you're doing to stop in time. Same thing when we do turns. If you're going too fast and you don't slow down before you turn, you could potentially flip your car. So we're also going to be going over changes in speed. Slowing down is the most important aspect of the heel because that's what tells Winnie something's changing, and then we follow it up with other lines of communication that are based upon leg movements. The first thing that we're going to do is I have, of course, Winnie in a sitting position, okay? So from this position, I'm going to cue the word heel, and I'm going to move forward with my left leg first, okay? And I was doing this in the last video, but I didn't point it out. So now, from this point forward, every time I say the word heel, I'm going to be moving forward with that left leg. The only time we say heel is when we go from stationary to motion. If we're already in heel, meaning I'm actively walking with Winnie, and Winnie were to pass me, I would not say heel and turn. I would simply just turn and tap, okay, to correct her. She's chewing on the leash. So we're going to, when we're in the heel, we don't repeat the command of heel. We just actually just turn, of course, tap to reinforce it. So here she's at my left side. I'm going to cue heel, move forward with my left leg. So she doesn't move, tap to bring her forward. Tap because she passed. Good. So now we're actively in the heel command because I cued that behavior. And as you can see, when she passed me, I did not repeat the heel. Good girl. She sat down. I'm not going to care about her facing me at the moment. I did not say heel and tap again. I just turned and tapped the moment I saw Winnie going too far ahead. Heel. Again, moving forward with that left leg. Tap. Tapping for the sit. The only reason why I'm choking up here is just to limit her range of motion so that she doesn't go all over the place. Heel, left leg. Good, she moves with me. Don't need to do anything there. Good girl, she turns with me. Don't need to do anything there either. So again, as long as Winnie is in position, there is no need to tap on the e-collar. And we're trying to teach her, when you follow our lead, good, tap, good. When you follow our lead, nothing happens. Heel, good. You can see she's right shoulder to left leg. Good, she sits on her own. Praise, atta girl, good job. There was no tap there. Good, heel. Good, tap, because I lost her attention. Again, I did not say heel in that moment because I'm already in the active heel. Good, she sits on her own, atta girl. Heel, tap, because there's a delay. And coming to that stop. Good, this is okay for now, because this is of course her first day. So as we practice with her more, it's gonna get better. So now, with the heel, we're gonna talk about slowing down for those stops and for those turns. So here, I'm gonna cue heel, start moving, and before I come to a turn, I'm actually gonna change my speed and slow down, okay? And if you've been watching closely, even previously to this, I was already slowing down because it's built into how I work with dogs. I've been doing this for so long that it's just kind of second nature to me. But this is something that I do want to point out that most people tend to forget, is just slowing down. So if you're walking with Winnie, she's doing a really good job walking with you, but is struggling with the turns or struggling with stopping with you, you are most likely forgetting to slow down. This is the most common thing that people forget. So I'm going to cue the word heel, move forward with my left leg. Good. We're walking. I'm going to slow down. Good. She's able to turn with me so I don't do anything there. Add a girl. Good. I'm going to ignore this for now. Here I'm slowing down. Good. Winnie moves with me. Good. Tap the speeder up. See how she runs to my left leg. That's good. Slowing down. Turning. Good. She turns with me. Tap the speeder up. Slow down. Tap, because you can see where she got distracted. Slowing down. Stop. Good, and she automatically sits. Atta girl. Heel. Tap, because there's a delay. Good. Tap. Good, because you can see her getting distracted. Good, and she of course stops. Heel. Tap. Tap, because she got ahead. Turning immediately to the right. Keeping that leash nice and slack. Tap. Tap. Good for the auto sit. Good. Heel. Good girl. Tap. 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 Tap, so she got a position. Tap. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it correct. Tap. Good. There we go. Add a girl. Heel. Tap. Slow down. Tap. 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 36. Heel. So when I came to a stop, you can see tap. That Winnie tap. Stop to start smelling the ground. Tap. So that tells me tap. If she's willing to sniff the ground, then my 30 is not high enough. So I bumped it to 36. Heel. Slow down. Stop. Tap. Good. Heel. Good. So she turned with me there. Tap. 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 Good. So there we get an overreaction. Tap. Tap. Good. So I just guide her through it. Good. Heel. Tap. Tap. Good. Heel. Tip. Tip. Good. Heel. Tip. Good. No tap there. Good. Heel. Good. No tap there. She moved. Slow down. Stop. Tap. Good. Heel. Slow down. Tap. 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 See how she sniffs the ground here? Tap. Tap. That shows you just where the dog's attention span is at. So if she was really locked in and focused on me and more worried about me than in the e-collar, she wouldn't be gambling the sniffs. So this helps me gauge the number. So now I went from 23, I'm all the way up to 36. And we, of course, would keep tweaking it. This is her first session, so I'm not too worried about it. As we work with her more, we're gonna start breaking a lot of those habits. But I'm using every opportunity that Winnie is giving me to, of course, correct. So that was the slowing down before those stops. On some of them, you saw where she was actually able to stop with me. And of course, I'm giving her that slack. I'm not using the leash to stop her. I'm wanting Winnie to stop with me because she's paying attention. And by using that leash, again, we're building bad habits, because if we know that Winnie's gonna be off leash, we wanna do the communication through the remote as much as possible. So now we're gonna start covering are the crossover turns and the pivots. So for the crossover turn, that's when we're turning left. We're gonna be turning into Winnie, and we're gonna be crossing over Winnie. Okay, so that's the crossover turn. The other turn is, of course, the pivot, which is also very similar to the correctional pivot, where you would turn to the immediate right, except when we're doing a pivot and Winnie is paying attention to us, there's more communication. That slowing down is very important. And of course, kind of using our legs to communicate what we're doing. So when we do the crossover turn, the crossover is led with the right leg, and we cross over the dog like this with the right leg, come in with the left leg, and then cross over again with the right leg. Just for the sake of the example, if you're turning left, you would simply just cross over with your right leg and continuing moving in that direction. But for the sake of the exercise, I'm gonna be making a complete U-turn, crossing over Winnie and going right, left, right. When we're doing the 180 pivots, which is very similar again to that correctional pivot, we're using changes in speed, so we want to make sure that we do slow down both before the crossover and before the pivot. And for this turn, we're gonna be doing extending with the left, stepping back on the right, and moving forward with the left, okay? So it's gonna look like left, right, left, turning on that third step. So we're gonna first start with the crossover. So heel, forward with that left leg, tap because she didn't move, tap and turn because she got ahead of me. I'm gonna just power through, good. So here I wanna slow down, and it's right, left, right, good. And slow down, and right, left, right, good. Tap to get her back to my side, slowing down, right, left, right, good. And if you have to bump through, please feel free to bump through, because that's what makes her more cautious. Tap of your body, tap, good. Slow down, right, left, right, good. So if done correctly, left, right, good. Tap, because she delayed. Slow down, right, left, right, good. You can see her kind of turning with me. I'll do 3 more. Tap, tap, because she got away from me. Slowing down, tap, tap. Here she got ahead of me, so I didn't commit to that left turn. Instead, I did a correctional turn. Slow down again, and right, left, right, good. Slow down, right, left, right, good. And when we make these steps, we want to make sure that we're doing very pronounced steps. Slow down, right, left, right. I'm turning with that right leg at a 90-degree angle. Slow down one more time. Good, and right, left, right. Very good. Let's bring Winnie forward. Slow down again. Come to a stop. Good. Tap. Very good. So here, again, keeping that leash slack, nice and loose, and slowing down prior at least 3 steps. More is perfectly fine. If you're slowing down and you see Winnie is not slowing down with you, getting a little ahead of you, we would not try to commit and do that left turn. She's not paying attention. You'd want to do a 180 pivot, tap, and go back the opposite way. If you ever are doing a crossover and you're feeling it's not working correctly, things are kind of sloppy, it just feels awkward, most likely you didn't slow down or the dog's not paying attention. It's almost always one of those 2 issues. So now we're going to go ahead and move to the 180 pivot. That's going to be the left, right, left turn. So you're going to be turning to your immediate tip, tip, tip. Good. To your immediate right. So the only time we care about left, right, left is when Winnie is paying attention. If Winnie is getting ahead of you, you would not slow down and you would not worry about left, right, left because she's already not paying attention. The only time we do these very specific leg movements is in order to communicate when she's paying attention. If she's not paying attention, there's no point in doing these movements. You would simply 180 turn to the right and tap to correct her and bring her back into position, and then try going into your turn. So here, still at 36, and I'm going to cue the word heel, move forward with my left leg, and then of course do the left right turn, slowing down before I do so. Heel, tap, tap, because I lost her. So now I'm walking. I'm going to slow down, and left, right, left. Good. A little bit of a delay there, but that's fine. Slow down, and left, right, left. Good. Slow down, left, right, left. Tap, because she got distracted with the dogs playing. Slow down, left, right, left. Good, nothing there because she turned with us, or turned with me. Slow down, left, right, left. Good, tap, speed her up. Do a couple more. Slow down, tap, 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 because she started sniffing the ground. Slow down, left, right, left. Good. Do a couple more. Slow down, left, right, left. Good turn. Slow down, left, right, left. Very good. So here, for most of those, she was able to get them. Slow down. Tap for the auto sit. Very good. So she was able to get most of those. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to shift between the left or the crossover turn and the right pivots. And as long as she's paying attention and my movements are correct, I shouldn't need to do the remote collar because she's paying attention. Of course, my communication is clear. Okay, so heel, left, right, left. Whoop, tap, that was my bad. Slow down, right, left, right. Good. Good, slow down, left, right, left. Good turn. Slow down, right, left, right. Tap, because she got distracted. Good. Tap. Good. Slow down, right, left, right. Good. Slow down, left, right, left. Slow down, stop. Tap. Good. Heel. Good. Slow down. Right, left, right. Good girl. Tap. Speed her up. Slow down. Left, right, left. Good. Good. I'm going to accept that. Good. Heel. Good. Slow down. Stop. Tip. Good. Tip. Good. I want to correct that. Bring a little bit more in. Heel. Good turn. Slow down. Good. Slow down. Right, left, right. Good. Tip. Speed her up. slow down, left, right, left, slow down. Good, tap, tap, because I want her in closer. Good girl, good job, good girl. Good, heel, left leg forward, yep. Slowing down, coming to a stop, tip, tip, and a girl. Good job. All right, so now we have the verbal heel cue to let her know that now we're starting and she should be holding into that position. Once I've cued that word, it's her job to pay attention and follow my lead, and it's of course my job to make sure that she is paying attention and to reinforce when she's not. We have those specific leg movements, of course, left leg always when moving forward, to let her know now we're under the heel command. Crossing over with that right leg at a sharp 90-degree angle, and of course pivoting off the left leg when we're making those 180 turns. Very important to always make sure that we are slowing down prior to those turns and be prior to those stops, because that's how we let her know something's changing. If I slow down and Winnie were to keep walking because she's distracted, we would of course turn and tap. There would be no crossover or left, right, left, because she's already lost. She's not paying attention, and we'll make sure to get a tap in to bring her back to that leg, turn again, and of course try to complete the turn you had originally planned. People tend again to give the dog too many opportunities to do the right thing, and you want to use every opportunity to make the dog do the right thing by using pressure and of course those correctional movements. So that completes the heel command. So we have the correctional turns that we covered in the last video, which is always to the immediate right, and then now we have cueing the word heel, crossing over the right leg and then pivoting off the left leg, and then of course to release her from this command we would use the word break, very much like we use the word break for the place command. When we go over break means her job is done. So if I have her in a heel, we're walking and I get to the park and I stop, she should stop with me. I wait a moment and then I cue the word break, and break lets her know now you can pee, poop, roll around, sniff the ground, or play with your doggy friends, okay? So that concludes the heel turns and heel stops with the heel command, and we'll be back with the stay command. All right, so we're back and we're going to cover the stay command. When we cover stay, I do it from the heeling position to differentiate with the dog to when we're moving and they're moving with me to holding a stationary position. In the place video, I said we don't say stay with commands like sit, down, or place, and that's correct. And the reason why stay would apply here is because when we are in a heel command, heel means to walk with me, move with me, and sit when I stop. So if I come to a stop and Winnie automatically sits, she's not in a sit command, she's in a heel command. So should I move, her inclination would be to move with me. So then we use the stay command to help her differentiate that, hey, now I'm gonna move and you don't move, okay? So when we do this command, since Winnie's gonna be on our left, we're actually gonna be stepping away from her using our right leg and pivoting out to face her like this in the beginning to make it easier for her, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and demonstrate this. I'm gonna go ahead and reinforce the sitting position, very good. We're at 36 currently. Heel. I cued the heel command, which means walk with me, stay with me, sit when I stop. I'm gonna slow down and I'm gonna do my pivot here. Left, right, left. Good. When he turns with me, I don't need to do anything. I go ahead and slow down, come to a stop. Good. She automatically sits. Great. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm actually gonna shorten the leash. I'm going to, just for the sake of the exercise, make it easier for Winnie and adjust to her. So it's right leg to my left, her right shoulder to my left leg. I'm going to use my left hand because that's the one closest to her. I'm going to wave over like this and go stay. And then I'm going to pivot out with my right leg in one fluid motion and swoop out in front of Winnie. Good. Just like this. And then I'm going to come back. I'm going to pray up, tip, 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 tip. Good, we're gonna try that again. Stay. Pivot out right leg. Good. Step back in. Good girl. Heel. Good. So, stay means don't move. Tip. She got distracted. Heel means to move. So we're teaching Winnie the concepts. He's got a star mark collar you can correct him with. Tap. Tap. Good. So if she breaks position, I'm being more strict now with what I'm holding her accountable for. I'm going to cue the word stay. Pivot out my right leg, keeping the leash short here, tap. Good. So if Winnie were to break position, I pull straight up, keeping her at this end. You can see I stretched out my arm because I want to keep Winnie away from me. So she jumped from here to here. That's okay. What I'm wanting her to learn is that when I pull up and tap, you put your butt back down. So I'm not going to worry about exact or perfect positioning in the beginning because we'll worry about just training the concepts, okay? Step back to her side. Good girl. Heel. Now heel means we're moving again. Slow down. Right, left, right, because we're doing that crossover turn. Good girl. Slow down. Left, right, left, because we're doing a pivot. Very good. Slow down again. Coming to a stop. Tap, tap. Good. So I'm going to take this. I don't want her stopping away from me anymore, so now I'm correcting and tapping to bring her in closer. Cue the word stay. Shorten my leash. Pivot out with my right leg. Tap. Good. Good girl. I'm going to do a couple more. Heel. So the reason why we choke up on that leash, good girl, is because, again, the closer I am to her collar, the more immediate leverage I'm going to have. If I were to stop and have a fully slack leash, slow down, stop. Good. If I were to have a fully slack leash, it gives her too much space for error. So here, when I cue the word stay, again, shorten, step away. If Winnie were to break the position now, I only have to go this high. If I have the leash over here, I have to go this high, which is very difficult. And then she happens to have all this slack here to kind of move around. So I want to limit her range of motion. So by cutting it short like this, it gives me much more immediate leverage, and I can correct her as well as keeping her away from me. If I were to tap Winnie and she were to come to me, because she might be thinking heel command, what ends up happening is it causes confusion, and she thinks that that's what she's supposed to do, and really we want her to learn to stay away from us, okay? So then back to her side, heel. Good girl. Slowing down, right, left, right, very good. So when we do those turns correctly, there should be no need for remoting. Tip, 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 tip. There we go, much better. Good. Stay. Pivot out, keeping it short, very good. Back to her side and heel. Tip. A little bit of a delay. Good, she turns with me. All right, so now I'm gonna start building off that simple stay, and I'm gonna start moving around Winnie. Slowing down, coming to a stop. Very good. Again, I'm not gonna worry about the exact positioning of the sits for now. I'm gonna cue stay, pivot out, good. And I'm gonna start to move in a half circle in front of Winnie. Good. I'm going to end up back facing in front of her, back to her side, heel, tap, a little bit of a delay, and tap. The delay is normal because we're using a counter tap behavior. Tap, tap, tap. A behavior counter to what she just learned. So tap, good. A little bit of pressure, very good. Because now that we've been teaching to stay, she's thinking, all right, well, I'm gonna hold back now. And of course, heel means to walk with me, stay with me. So now she's getting conflicting messages. That's perfectly normal. Dogs get a little bit confused. So if she doesn't move with me, I just put a little tap behind it. Boom, she comes to that left leg. All right, so now, again, stay. Pivot out in front, using that right leg. She thought about it because she moved for a second. Just moving in front here in a half circle motion. Good. Back to her in front, back to her side, and heel, tap with that left leg. Good. Slow down, left, right, left. Slow down. Tip, tip. Want her closer to me. A little bit better. Stay. Pivot out in front. And what I'm gonna start doing now is a full circle. Again, keeping it short because she's still in the beginning phase. Good. Try coming back the opposite way. Good. Heel. Tap. Tap. Left, right, left. Good. Slow down. Good. Tip. Good. Stay. Pivot out with the right leg. Keeping it short. Doing that full circle. Good. Keeping it relaxed and not keeping it tight to hold her in place. I want Winnie to mentally make these decisions. Good. In response to the way that I'm shaping the behaviors with the e-collar. Heel. We're gonna do one more. Left, right, left. Good. Slow down. Right, left, right. Very good. Slow down. Come to a stop. Tip. Okay, a little too far. Tip. 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 Yeah, girl, good job. And one more. Stay. Good girl. Good. So as long as my communication is very clear, it's consistent, it's always the same. Dogs learn very quickly when it comes to electronic collar and pressure. Pressure is the best way to train, in my opinion, because it creates reliable obedience, but also the dogs pick it up very quickly because we're talking their language. Good. Tip. Good. Tip. 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 So I'm being a bit more strict. There we go. With Miss Winnie here, I'm not allowing her to stop too far away from me. I wouldn't care if she stopped like this, facing me, because she's still relatively really close. But here, the way I moved and then the way I was using the leash pressure, of course, is being a bit more strict, giving those slow taps, still at 36, to help her line up. And essentially she's learning, as long as I stop in the correct position, I can avoid getting more taps, okay? So the more taps that we give, the faster she learns, the faster she gets the concepts, the less we end up having to remote over the course of time. So here for the stay command, again, we're using it from a moving behavior because when we come to a stop with heel, when she automatically sits, it is not a sit command, it's a heel command, and sit is built into it. So again, if I were to move, her inclination would be to move with me. So here, we're teaching her how to stay when we're going from a moving behavior or moving command, okay? So one way you can apply this is, and practice this during your walks, as if you come to a red light, while you're waiting for the red light to turn green, cue the word stay, and you can practice as you're waiting for it to turn green. After a dog poops, a lot of times people are trying to pick up the poop and the dog is pulling over here. You can simply up and tap her into a sitting position, cue the stay, go off and pick up your poop so that the dog is staying put. It's also very good for pictures. People tend to use it a lot for those. And when you practice to stay, just find places in life where you can actually apply this. Some people apply it when they work in but live in condo buildings. There's a lot of traffic and all that stuff, that they'll cue the stay and they'll come out and they'll kind of peek around with what's going on within the environment, then step back and then go into the heel to move with their dog, especially if they have a reactive dog. They're just kind of a little bit more vigilant and alert. So that's another place you can apply it. So a lot of people use the stay for waiting for their food and things like that. Just remember that when you cue the stay means stay here, don't move until I release you or give you the next command. So each time we was giving her the stay, we were going back to heel position and I was cueing the heel. Another way you could release her, of course, would be with the break command. And break would mean now your job is done and now you can pee, poop, roll around, sniff the ground. You're free to be a dog, okay? So again, break being that universal release command. So that was the stay, and then we'll be back and we'll cover the recall, the sit, and the downs, and the rest of our obedience. Break.
Hi, it's Enrique with Canine Perspective. Today we have Winnie, a Daycare and train. So in this video, we're going to be covering over the sit and down command. We will do the down first. So there's going to be two ways I'm going to do for the down. First, we'll most likely start with the leash on the ground, and then I'm going to put my foot on it and apply pressure. I don't want her to go down due to my pressure on the leash, but on the e-collar. And this is going to be when she's in a sitting position. So again, my left foot here. So there's tension or pressure. I'm going to start low. So here's a 9, tap, tap. Where she sits. Where she stands, put her back in the sitting. Tap. 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 13. Tap. 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 16. Tap. 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 20. Tap. 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 25. Tap. 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 Okay. Tap. 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 There we go. Break. So we'll do one more, and then I'll explain a few things. Put down 20, tap, 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 tap. Tap, 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 tap. Good girl. And I release my foot with tension, and there's no tapping here once she does the down. A few more. Break. Tap. Tap. Break. So that one was a lot easier compared to the first one, second one, and the third one. I want to do one more. Break. So I'm gonna give it another tap because she's still good. So that's the first way. Foot on the leash, pulling down, so there's pressure pulling her down. But I'm pairing up the e-collar because I want the e-collar to do all the work. I just had to keep my position and the pressure on until she complied. And then when she would stand up from her sitting position, I would still keep tapping because I didn't want Winnie here to think that standing up got the tapping to go away. I still kept the pressure on. I just repositioned myself and got her back into the position I needed her to be in to do the down. But I started low and I ended up at 26, so when I tapped right here on 26, she just went down. So that's the first way. The second way is using pressure on the shoulder blades. Oh, and then we're not titling yet. We just like to get some consistency with like the e-collar first, and then once we see, pressure being consistent and like her response to the e-collar, then we title it. So break. So for the shoulders, get a little closer here. So I'm gonna hold the leash pretty close to her. E-collar my right hand. I'm gonna dip down again. Go to 17. And I'm pulling away in case she starts to buck around, she won't get to my face. So I have very little slack, pulling away. So if she jumps, I'm already going that way. So when I'm applying pressure on the shoulder blades, I'm going in an angle so she can fold easily. Instead of going straight down, she can't fold because her arms are straight. So it's just going to make it, she can't fold. So if I go in an angle, she can kind of go like that. And I'm not doing a lot of pressure, just like the first way I was doing it. There was no pressure with the shoe or with the pulling down the leash. So there's not going to be that much pressure on the shoulder blades. It's just going to be enough to guide her into the position. And again, no words. So here's the pressure, and here's the tap. Good girl. Break. I'm gonna go down. Go down up. Let's try. Because there was a big jump. Good girl. So again, tap. Good. Break. So she's doing good with that. So there's no tapping here. She's already starting to get the idea. So I didn't tap. It was just the shoulder pressure. Break. But eventually, we obviously want to get away from the shoulder, get away from the foot on the leash. But okay. So very light pressure. Tap. Tap. We dip down. Go to 7. Tap. not tapping. No tapping, just the pressure. So I'm just gonna pet her back so she's not too sensitive to it. Okay. Tap. Good girl. Good girl, man. Break. So I'll mix it up a little bit, do the foot. So now she gets the idea of what's going to happen after I do these certain positions. So break. Down. Good. Break. Down. Tap. Good. Break. Down. Tap. Yeah. Good. Break. So why is she downing right away without any help? Or so she's starting to do it ahead now. So I'm just gonna pull her up. Get her back up. Gotta look at the camera. Down. Tap. Tap. So, like with similar to place command, we start with phases like leash pressure and tapping. Then we go tapping, or leash pressure, e-collar. Those are paired, and then we go e-collar after a few repetitions of that, e-collar only, and then leash pressure if needed. And then after that, we do verbal, then e-collar, then leash pressure. Similar here. The reason why she downed and understood it with the e-collar because it's the only thing we've been doing right now, so it's the only response she's been, giving me to turn off the e-collar. So that's why I mean when we title it, it looks cleaner. So if I title it in the beginning, it wouldn't matter because I would still have to do everything over again. So right now, it's a little bit of duration work right here, just keeping her down, but we'll keep repeating it, the process of going down, and then once we see a lot of consistency, we'll continue to title it, and if she doesn't down right away, we use the e-collar. But as you can see, she's getting the idea pretty quickly. So that's the down command. We'll go over the sits command as well. So right now, down command for the sitting. So right here, I'm going to correct this. Tap, 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 tap. Good girl. So for the sit, similar to the auto sits, leash pressure up and pairing with the tap. We'll do it from the down position. And like anything else, don't title it. Let's see. Well, since she already knows what leash pressure up and then the tapping means, we can title it now because we've done it with the auto sits. We just didn't title it because it's part of the heel. So when you sit, tap, 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 tap. We bump it. Go to 10. Tap, 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 tap. There we go. Break. Down. Good. When you sit, tap, better, good girl. Break. And if you wanted to really, let's see, reliable sit, what you could do is like an in motion sit. in motion sit. So I'm moving with Winnie. I hear the word sit, I stop. Perfect. Break. Sit. Break. Sit. Open movement. Break. Sit. Tap. Leash pressure up. There we go. Good. Break. Sit. Tap. Good. Break. Sit. Tap. Tap. Winnie, sit. Tap. Good. Break. Sit. Tap. Break. Sit. Tap. Good. Break. Sit. Tap. Break. Sit. Tap. Good. Break. Sit. So here, good tap. Good girl. Break. Sit. Tap. Good. Break. Sit. Good. Break. Sit. Good girl. Break. Sit. Tap. Break. Sit. Good. Break. Sit. Break. So that's another way, if you wanted to like do a quick sit with her, a quick sit session instead of going down, sit, having her go into sitting while in motion. So yeah, down and sit. We'll keep practicing those, conditioning them, and we'll go from there. But she did good. Hi, it's Enrique and Bria with Canine Perspective. We have a daycare and train, Winnie. This video we're going to be covering the recall command. So what we're going to do first, right now we have a long leash and a short leash. Short leash is to just keep the separation from both handlers, and the long leash is just to make the command happen. It also gives us the 30 feet to make it as realistic as possible. So right now we're not going to use any words, just going to be using leash pressure and the e-collar. So what we're going to do first, we'll go ahead and get like positioned and everything. Just go to the wall. So since we're teaching something new, we're going to get dipped down. Regular working number was like 20, 25, go down to 15. So what I'm going to do first is create tension with the leash. Right now there's no tension, and when I pull a little bit, there's tension. So I'm going to pair that tension with the e-collar. I'll vocalize when I'm tapping, and then if Winnie makes his way to me, just to draw him in more, I take 3 to 4 steps back, and then I start reeling in my leash. With the long leash and everything, we usually put our right hand, because I use the e-collar with my right hand, so then I put my thumb to the loop, and then I reel in with my left. So I hold the leash with my left, I reel in with my right. So I'm pulling here, and I just let it go to the ground, just so that when he does come to me, he doesn't have 30 feet more to go the opposite way. So I'm just limiting his like answers to how to figure out how to turn off the e-collar. So leash pressure pairing with the e-collar. If he stops, I keep the pressure on, which means tension with the leash, pulling him, and e-collar. Once he makes his way, there's no tapping, there's no tension on the leash. What else? And then we'll go from there. So let me see real quick. Okay. Back. So here, there's tension. Do a tap. 3-4 steps back. Start reeling in the leash. So right here, a part of the recall command is come to me and sit. So I'm going to tap for the sit. Tap. Good boy. Great. Oh, good girl. So your tension, not tapping me yet. So tension, good. Tap, tap. So in moment, so I'm going to tap here. Tap. Good girl. Break. I'm going to dip down as well. Tap, tap, tap. Tap. Good girl. One more. Break. Tension, tap, tap. Okay, tap. Good girl. And break. So now, as we see some consistency with the leash pressure and tapping, and just an overall like a good response to when she feels all that pressure. We can take away the leash and just use e-collar. So if it's going to be backwards now, it's going to be tapping, and if she's not responding the way we want her to respond to the task we're asking, then we'll do leash pressure. So I have a slack, tap, good girl. Tap, break. Tap. Tap. Two more. Break. Tap, tap. So right here, this is too far, so I'm gonna face her, tap, hold, still a little too far. I'm just gonna give it a tap, see what she does. Tap, back, break. That's why we have the two handlers and two leashes. Whatever position, area she lands in, doesn't matter, just as long as it's in 1 to 2 feet of me. Tap. So right here, she's going the other way. So I'm gonna face her, tap, 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 hold, tap, tap for sit. Break. So when Winnie comes to me, and let's say she passes me, I turn, face her, and repeat the tapping and moving back. Tap, tap. Tap, sit. Good girl. Break. Tap. Tap. So now, break. So now, since there's some consistency with the response of just e-collar, we can title it now. So it's going to be Winnie, come, tap, 3 steps back, release pressure if needed. Winnie, come, tap. Good girl. Break. Winnie, come. So here, turn, face her, move back, tap. Tap for the sit. Break. Where do you come? Tap. Good girl. Break. When you come, tap, tap. Tap the set. 2 more, break. Once she's settled, I'll go ahead and recall her. When you come, tap, tap, tap. Good girl. Good girl. Break. Winnie, come. Good girl. Break. One more. Winnie, come. Back. Pat. Good girl. Oh, you're good. I can hold on. Break. So all that was really good. All that was normal. The wanting to get to me before I tap was normal. Avoiding Bree at the end was normal too. So we started with leash, tension, e-collar, no words. The moving back is always going to be a thing. And then we went to e-collar first, then leash tension, and then we went titling it, so Winnie come, tap, and then moving back and giving leash pressure if needed. The moving back is always going to be something that you want to do. It's going to be a visual for your dog. So if you're, say you're at a dog park and it's loud, or like a beach, and you're yelling Winnie come, and Winnie sees you, but she doesn't hear you, but you start tapping, and she's looking for you while you're tapping, and she sees you, and then she sees you moving back. She's like, oh, that's recall, so she's gonna run to you. It's just to help draw the dog in and just give them like a visual if they can't hear you, or so yeah. And then the Winnie come tap. In the beginning when you're teaching this command, when you're practicing it outside, you want to do that because you don't want to be in a situation where you yell Winnie come, she turns, she's about to go to you, like a normal response, but then you tap, but you tap too late. She's either going to, one, shut down, two, run the opposite way because she's going to think she did something wrong. So if you start from the beginning, that Winnie come tap is just something that is part of the recall command. It's not going to be a surprise to her. She's just going to know that, oh, even though I get tapped after they call me, this still means to go to you. When you're practicing this, go into a park or any open field. So for example, if she has prey drive squirrels, let her go chase the squirrels, let her get lost into it. And then once it's been like 15 minutes, recall her off the tree. You can do that. You can recall her off the squirrel when she's in pursuit, recall her off when she's at the squirrel, or recall her when she's about to get to the tree. Change it up. Don't be consistently recalling her every single time at one time, if that makes sense. You want to mix it up because you don't want her to get too attached to you. So if she sees a squirrel, she doesn't want to chase it because she knows she's going to get called off it. If you're just going to go in an open field and let her loose with the long leash, again, being inconsistent with how many times you call her throughout that time you're there is important. And then, if you have another partner or someone that can help you, this setup is good too. It's more realistic if it's just you and Winnie, just in like an open field, or her chasing squirrels or a ball or whatever. But yeah, that's it.